Can you do roll
Ready,
call,
Cole?
please? Roll call. Mr. Silva,
Here.
Mr. Guy,
Here.
Mr. Winterhalter,
Here.
Mr. Evans,
Here.
Mr. Edwards, Ms. McGowan,
Here.
Mr. Locker.
Here. Thank you, Andy.
You're quite welcome.
So we will do a short moment of silence and then the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Any of the members have any specific comments on the agenda before we start?
No, sir.
Okay. We'll go to the minutes. We had an April 24th meeting. Do we have any comments on that, those minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second,
I'll-
all in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. Staff update, is that you, Andy?
Actually, it's me.
Ah.
So, if I just take a couple minutes of your time, just to let you know what we've started and what we're doing. One of the important things that the township has to do, every so often is update their comprehensive plan. And that process, believe it or not, needed to start. And so we've started it. If you'll recall, we did that actually just about the time that I came, a little over 10 years ago, and you get to do it about every 10 years. And we adopted the last plan in 2016. So we are starting now with the intent to adopt your new update and your new plan in 2026. Let me just give you just a quick importance of why we're doing it and how we're doing it this time. So what I believe the comp plan does is paint a picture of what we want to be 10, 20, 30 years from now, and that's the importance of that comp plan. Most of those things won't change probably in the rest of my career at the township. But it's really important that we lay the right foundation so that you're the community that you want to be in that time. So that's why the comp plan is so important. So I hope people take the time to participate, take the time to share your thoughts, because it's a very important part. But I want to talk about how we're doing this one. We made a decision as similar to the last time we had a consultant. We've hired a consultant again. The board did that. If you'll recall, we also did a strategic plan in 2020 that got approved. And that plan had some mirroring of the comp plan, but was a little bit more specific about what we wanted to accomplish and what we wanted to do. And also was a little bit broader. And it picked up some pieces of how to relate to the township staff and those kind of things. And so we want to pick up on that as well. So we are actually having two documents that we're doing at the same time. We are doing a comp plan and a strategic plan at the same time. The comp plan will be for 10 years. The strategic plan will initially be for 4 years. And then in year 4 of that strategic plan, we will update it for 3 more years. And then in year 3 of that plan, we'll update it for the final 3 years. So it runs the entire length of the comp plan. And the idea being that everything that's in the comp plan would be mirrored for specific goals and direction in the strategic plan, and also recommendation of how we do funding. And so it's going to be very important for how we set budgets going forward, how we set priorities going forward in our township. So I'm sharing with you as a board, your role is very active in this, encouraging you to be involved in the public meetings as the planning commission, because you guys are, you see what's happening with our developers coming in. 2 of your members, both Kurt and Liz Ann, are on the steering committee for this. There's 2 steering committees made up of 7 members. One steering committee is for the comp plan and one for this strategic plan. And so this is really just an important time in the township where we're going forward. Our first public meeting that everybody will have an opportunity to participate in is going to be September 3rd. I really encourage not only you as commission members, but all the public that's here to make the commitment to put that on their calendar to do that. It'll actually be 2 different meetings that day, one at 4 and one at 7. But it's the same meeting just twice, hopefully to catch as many people as possible. So again, I encourage you, and we'll be advertising that. There's going to be a survey going out. I encourage you to take the survey. Their goal was to get, 400 or 500. My goal is to get about 4,000. That would be, I would think we really would hit a home run if we did that. When we did the strategic plan, when we got the survey back, we had about 1,500 responses. I would love to have at least that many responses again. Actually, I'd love to have, like I said, 4,000, because the more responses we have, the better the plan is in meeting the needs of the community. So I encourage you to participate in that. That's, unless you have questions, that's what I had to say.
So if somebody doesn't show up or.
I'm gonna come after you and wonder why you're not there.
Yeah.
No, okay. No,
And
sorry.
you were going down the joke.
Yeah.
Are they not allowed to complain if they don't participate?
I would like to say that, but I've learned that you don't control those things.
Oh, okay, got it.
Any questions?
How is that survey being distributed?
So right now, that's not finalized. I know it'll be through the newsletter, the e-newsletter. So if you've not signed up for the e-newsletter, I encourage you to do. That will be one of the ways it's done. I'm going to recommend to our board, the Board of Supervisors, that we consider sending out a postcard with a QR code on it so that everybody would have it in their home and put it out in businesses and those kind of places around town. So that we would get that kind of feedback. Any other questions? All right, thank you all.
First up, we have Village of Four Seasons, but I do want to touch something that I think is going to be part of the big part of the conversation. So we have 3 sets of plans. We have the initial set. There's another set dated October 14th that does have a revision date. And then the 5/22/25 are the ones that, obviously the ones you're proposing here.
Yes, both the 2 sets for 5/22/25. One is a conditional use set and the other is the subdivision and land development set. But the 10/14 set, the original ones, that's what we originally had when we first filed the conditional use application.
Right, and so for clarity, ultimately, it's up to the supervisors. You're of the view that you're revising the plans that you previously submitted.
That's correct.
And so you've got a 50-foot riparian, and that's your view, and
Yes.
the supervisors in the end will make that determination. But I just wanted to be clear. I mean, from my perspective, if and when we make a recommendation, would be to the supervisors, we make a recommendation subject to your belief that it is a revision of the prior plans, and that if you think it's not a revision and the 100-foot buffer is appropriate, then I'm thinking our recommendation would be, we would recommend that you do not approve it because it is not compliant.
But I want to clarify, so it's a little confusing when you have 3 different sets of plans. So the question is, whether you revise them or made them new set of plans. Basically, what we and the professionals for the township review is the latest submission.
Correct.
So as far as we are concerned, this is it, right? That this is the latest.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I can just elaborate a little bit more just on this particular issue. We submitted a conditional use plan, and I think we were, that was like back in October of 2024, October, November 2024. All of the changes that we've made that got us to this plan that we're going to talk about tonight were as a result of feedback that we got from township staff. They suggested that we change certain things and we made those changes to the plan. But the relief, the conditional use relief we're asking for still relates to the steep slopes. It still relates to section 134-7A and B as it did before. So it's the exact same issues. We just made changes that we were asked to make by township staff.
And that's my understanding as well, is that they made certain requests and. So, okay, I just wanted to get that out early and then leave it to you.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Don Petrosa. I'm an attorney representing the applicant. I'd like to introduce Nicole DeBaton Robinson, who is the owner's representative, and Neil Kamens, who is with Chester Valley Engineer. He is the project engineer. As you indicated, we've got two plans. One is the conditional use plan, and the other one is the subdivision and land development plan. There's a lot of overlap, obviously, between the two plans. I'm going to turn it over to Neil to give you the details, but this property is on Gradyville Road, and we're talking about roughly 21 plus acres is the subject of this application. And we're proposing 12 single-family residential dwellings on the 21 plus acres. And there are currently 2 existing houses on this property. They would be demolished and replaced with newer houses. But of the total of 12 houses, 3 of those houses would have their access not to Gradyville Road, but to Marple Township. Through the Village of Four Seasons in Marple Township. They would connect into the Marple Road. So that leaves 9 houses accessing Gradyville Road, and we already have 2 houses accessing Gradyville Road. So we're talking about a total of 7 additional households accessing Gradyville Road. As I've indicated, we had the original conditional use plan, and we made changes that were suggested to us by the township staff. And Neil what we thought, I want to say that we're not asking you to make a recommendation tonight. Eric has asked for some additional information, and we owe him some additional information, which we should provide to the township engineer. We're now getting into the details. So we're not asking you to make a recommendation tonight, but we thought it was important to come and show you the plan that we have today, tell you a little bit about some of the changes that were made to the plan and how we got to the plan. And with that, I'd like to call on Eric to review it for you.
Neil?
Sorry, Neil.
Okay.
That's all right.
I'm gonna move over here so I can point to something. Like Don said, most of the plans are identical. The conditional use does highlight the few things we're asking for conditional use approval for, but I think it might be easier to pick the colored plan, which is under the land development items, and be able to point at that to just start with, so you can understand what we're doing. And then we can look at that, and then I can go, there's a plan that highlights the slopes that we're proposing to disturb, the areas of steep and very steep slope that I can get to second, but I think it's easier to see things on this sheet.
We have
The original plan, we had a road that,
Do we add that?
Where in this is that? Is it in here?
this is a colored version of a composite of lots of sheets. So it's not actually, I can give you a copy of it.
What is the
That'd be
date?
great.
What is the date of that plan, just to find it among all the different plans that you have?
Or it's an aggregation.
May 25th.
It's 625, that's when we just made the
625?
colored version, but it's the same, there's really only one revision. So we revised, we did the conditional use application in October. Revised. The township asked us to submit a preliminary subdivision and land development plan and have that be reviewed alongside the conditional use. So that, our recent submission is the first one with the preliminary subdivision and land development plan. we revised the conditional use plan, and with the exception of a few notes and a few items, the two plan sets dated May 22nd are identical. The content was all identical, just we highlighted some things and have some different notes on each. And then this is just a composite, but the lots shown on here, the road, the trees, everything is identical to what's in the two complete sets of plans. Does that make sense? I don't want to be confusing to start with. As Don mentioned, we have 12 lots. The 3 lots at the bottom of the page go through Marple Township. So we've got Marple Township, the Village of Four Seasons has already been constructed. So this cul-de-sac you see in black and white, at the very bottom of the page, that exists today. So starting on the right, lot 1, this triangular piece that comes all the way over to 252, that's going to be a new house that just goes straight out to that cul-de-sac in Marple Township. Lot 2 will be right next to it, also is going to come straight out to Marple Township. Lot 3 is going to connect to an extension of Cherry Blossom Lane, which is not quite constructed in Marple right now. They've built some of it, but they haven't finished it last time I was out there. But those 3 lots, there will be no direct access to Gradyville Road. The rest of the lots, the 9 lots after that, are going to be on these 2 roadways, which are both cul-de-sacs right now, that come off of Gradyville and then comes into another cul-de-sac. And then this squiggly thing that looks halfway like a driveway and halfway like a road at the bottom of the page is an emergency access connection to Marple Township. We originally had the road going through, and some of you that might have been here 10 years ago, we actually had an application for a 2-lot subdivision in, I think, 2016, where we were going to construct the through road to go to Marple. And that did not.
Eventually,
fruition.
when everything is built, will that connection be blocked?
It would. So this is just emergency access. We're going to work with the township and the fire marshal, whether we have bollards or gates, but there'll be no vehicular access except for emergency vehicles from one township to the other. Pedestrians can access it. It's going to be paved, and it's going to have either a gate, bollards, or if somebody has a better idea of how they want to block it, but so that it's still available in an emergency.
Right, but it will be open only for emergency.
Only for emergencies, otherwise it'll be blocked, so there'll be no through traffic, no opportunity. It's been raised to us concerns about a cut through from 252 back to 252. There'll be no opportunity to cut through. There'll only be 9 lots that we're showing that will access these 2 roads and come up to Gradyville Road. Does that make sense?
But the 2 existing houses that are on the site, where are they? Just to get an
They are,
the
if
existing.
you look to the right in the uncolored area,
Yeah,
there are 2 long lots. There are 2 lots just like that. You can see if you look closely, there's a straight line
yeah.
up here. That's the old lot line. So right now there's a house about where the house on lot 6 is, a little further forward where the road is. And there's a house about where the number 7 is. Those are
Okay.
2 existing houses that front.
Are they occupied now?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that, are they
They do
occupied?
not have residents in them. One of them is used as,
One's a business office. They are one.
Can we wait for public comment,
Okay.
please? Let the applicant finish their presentation.
And those
Those
2
two
properties
houses
currently exit onto Gradyville.
they have individual driveways onto Gradyville Road.
Got it.
And those driveways would be removed. The houses will be removed. And so there will be, as Don was saying, when this is done, there'll be 9 single-family houses that access the roads onto Gradyville. And today there are 2, so there'd be 7 additional houses. There'd be the traffic from 7 additional families coming out onto Gradyville Road.
Have you analyzed the traffic condition on Gradyville Road for this project? Back 10 years ago, whenever it was, you had traffic engineer here.
There was a traffic engineer here 10 years ago. Chris Williams with, I would say McMahon, but I can't remember their new
It's
name.
Bowman now.
Bowman has been working with them on this. He has checked the site distance for this intersection. He has looked at it, but he has not done a traffic study per se.
Well, the reason for my question is, he made a presentation back then. But, who knows, Gradyville Road, probably has some different perceptions about how, traffic acts there. The intersection of Gradyville Road and 252 is difficult, and that should be paid attention to.
Okay. I will make sure.
The intersection of of Gradyville Road and Stony Brook Boulevard is also difficult.
I'd like to refer back maybe to that study 10 years ago that was done.
Right.
Forget about this development. The traffic on Gradyville alone has changed since that study.
Yeah, there should be a new study done.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Did you have a plan on doing a study?
Scott mentioned, we have we have items where we need to provide additional information to township staff and consultants. And like, we got a request from the petition earlier today, and we got this request, we're noting it all down, so we respond to all this and provide information. That seems to get us another review that, you know, from everybody that hopefully addresses as much as we can. So,
Great.
that's kind of the story on the lots, the way they go. We also have 2 parcels of open space, which Don did not mention. The zoning does not require open space. We just, in talking with the township and looking at the layout of the parcel, we have picked about 2.5 acres of land that will not be part of lots and will be open space. Right now, we're thinking it would be owned by the HOA. If the township were interested in it, we would be amenable to the township having it. Either way. One parcel is just like the southeast of the cul-de-sac, and there's another parcel at the upper left.
Yeah.
Each of those contains the largest areas of wetlands and riparian area. So, I mean, some people might say, oh, you're making open space where you couldn't do anything with it. But conversely, we're making open space in an area to make sure that it is protected and preserved. As part of our submissions, we included a woodland management plan. We've been working with the township arborist. So we're planting thousands of tree whips on the site. We have a management plan that removes invasives, removes vines, plants the whips, maintains the whips. It was suggested at the shade tree meeting that John Hosback, the township arborist, he's inspected other sites periodically. And we were discussing that. We think that might be a very good way to make sure that the plan that's proposed to work that into the inspection schedule so that the township knows that the commitments that are made to the reforestation areas and to improving sites where there's a lot of dead trees, there's dead ash trees, there's some trees not in great condition, and there's other places we're just trying to plant more native species. And we worked with John to develop that plan. And so we're trying to have a real plan where those areas will be not really reforested because they're not being cleared, but where they will be improved with a woodland management plan to make a healthy woodland that can be maintained. We have a lot of stormwater management. It's discussion of the riparian buffers. We are using the 50-foot riparian buffer from when the original conditional use was submitted. The only place we are impacting the riparian buffer and the wetlands is with the emergency access crossing to Marble Township. By going to the emergency access instead of the street, in addition to the traffic issues, it allows us more flexibility in the way the paving is shaped both horizontally and vertically than if it were a full street. And so we've been able to minimize the steep slope disturbance, minimize the wetland disturbance, and minimize the impact on the riparian buffer. That is one of the places where we are seeking conditional use approval. We have received comments from the township fire marshal, and I've corresponded with him. There are different parts of the fire code. We talk about the widths. He and I agreed we should work through these to make sure we're giving him what he thinks we need to have. That's kind of a overall summary of what's going on. We do have a flag lot, lot number 4. And interestingly, and if I get this wrong, Andy, please correct me. The subdivision ordinance recognizes a flag or interior lot. We're meeting the dimensional requirements for that. But the zoning ordinance does not technically tell you how you can calculate frontage on one of those lots. So we're still working with Andy, but it would not surprise me if we get to the point where we have to go to the zoning hearing board because of the frontage on the flag lot. Just because it's not defined in the zoning ordinance.
So that length is fine. How long is that?
The strip is 50 feet, and we have way more than the required frontage. Back where we get back to the building setback line where the line lights up. And again, if you looked at the subdivision ordinance, what we've shown is in compliance, but the zoning ordinance is silent about that. It doesn't really tell you can or can't do it, but consequently, there's no direction. So we've been talking to Andy about that. For the lot sizes in themselves, there are 2 provisions in the ordinance that allow reducing the lot size. The minimum lot area defined in the zoning is 60,000 square feet. We are using, there's a lot reduction provision, which allows you to, it's not necessarily an averaging per se. There's an average component to it, but you're allowed to reduce the lot sizes down, and you're allowed to reduce certain dimensional requirements down at the discretion of the Board of Supervisors. You do then have to average the lot areas to the 60,000 square feet that's listed in the zone. So that's what we've done. Andy and Eric both have some questions about how we did it. We still need to work through those details with them, but that's our principle. It's not a cluster ordinance. It doesn't require open space. It just allows us to do that if the board approves it. Obviously, if the board doesn't approve it, it can't be done. But that's how we came up with the lot sizes. And looking at things in the neighborhood, Don noticed that nearby subdivisions have used lot averaging in the past, which I think was a different section of the code, but a similar approach where there are other lots around that at the time were picked at a zoning at a size that was less than the single minimum size for that district. But that's what we're doing. I can talk in a little more detail about some of the other engineering aspects, but I think we've looked at Eric's comments. There's some we have questions about that we need to have a little more dialogue. Some he has made notes and things that we need to amend or correct or add to the plans, and we're obviously willing to do that.
Traffic study sounds like one that you're gonna get to, and you noted it, right?
Yes.
Water runoff, adjacent neighborhoods, adjacent neighbors. Have they been affected by runoff, to your knowledge, of the existing property?
All
In
of
any
the,
way?
all of the runoff from this portion drains to wetlands on the site. So the upper portion drains to wetlands in the upper left corner that stays on this side of Gradyville, drains into Hunter's Run, which is draining north to south. So it goes under Gradyville Road. Our runoff then ties into it, and then it continues down into the reservoir. On the south side, there's a tributary that runs below the house on lot 12, above the house on lot 3. There's wetlands and a tributary that drains down towards the reservoir. So all of our water drains directly into something else in the site and in the reservoir. It does not drain directly onto any of the adjacent properties. We've gone through that. Eric did have a few comments about what we did with the stormwater, but not many. I'm confident that what we have complies and that we give the extra information that Eric will agree. We obviously need an NPDES permit, so we're gonna have to work through all of that and whatever, detail that DEP continues to require. So I think, I know stormwater is always an issue. I would agree probably with everybody in this room that the design storms that are written in the manuals and the books do not necessarily accurately reflect what happens in the real world anymore. But we're meeting the reductions in volume and peak flow. We've done a lot of soil testing on the site. So where we had good soils, we're infiltrating water. There are a couple of places we don't have good soil, so we can't infiltrate that. But we've done the math to show how when you balance the water that's going to each of our drainage points, we're meeting the reductions the ordinance requires.
Do you have hydric soils on the property?
In and near the riparian buffer and the wetlands, yes. We had the wetlands delineated years ago. We had Scott Bush with GHD out again in April of this year. And he confirmed the wetlands and amended a few flags in a few places. But it's basically the same as it was years ago when we had the crossing. We are avoiding. So some of you asked about the old plan. Originally, we had a street that was not quite straight, but pretty close to straight from Marple Township to where Road B in the middle of the site is, up, and it hit right at the apex of the curve on Gradyville Road. In doing that, we impacted the wetlands and the riparian buffer and some steep slopes right near Gradyville Road. By moving, it was suggested that we look at, can we move it to the right and have adequate site distance? We did that. Bowman looked at it. We do have adequate site distance, so we moved the road connection in Gradyville to the east so we can avoid any of those environmental disturbance there. So like I said, the place where we're hitting the riparian buffer and we'll need a water obstruction permit from DEP for our crossing is at the emergency access at the bottom of the plan.
What's the length that you'll be impacting the variant for the conditional use? It's just that you just
It's
get,
actually not a conditional use requirement for that. It's the way it's written, and maybe Andy can help me out. The ordinance acknowledges that you can cross it if you have no other place to do it, but it doesn't, to my knowledge, require a conditional use. Our conditional uses are all related to steep slope disturbance and very steep slope disturbance.
can you answer the question? Okay, that's fine. Can you just,
Yeah. I
How
don't
much of the
know
riparian do you
exact
think-
distance, But the stream is probably 20 feet wide, and we're crossing not quite perpendicular. 50, we're using the 50-foot buffer, so we probably got, 50, 20, 50, 120, probably 130 by the time you take into account the angles. I mean, we're crossing the stream, so we're not running parallel and being in just the buffer. We go to a point where we cross the water course. And to get there, obviously, since the buffer's 50 feet on either side of the water course, you're going right across it.
so on page. Hard to read. Anyways, you've got a chart that said about the steep slopes and very steep slopes.
Yes.
I think it's sheet 3 on the conditional use
Yeah.
plans.
And so you're showing 12, just over 12%. And then ours allows 15.
And I think to illustrate.
I'm trying, it doesn't, the math here doesn't look like you are not compliant. That's what I'm trying to.
There's another plan that will illustrate this to help. I think if we go to the conditional use plan set, there is a sheet where we have the colored all of our slope impacts so that they're very easy to see.
Curtis, in answer to your question, we're within the tolerances allowed. We're 25 square feet of very steep slopes, which is 0.2% of the very steep, and we're 12% on the steep.
But you
slope.
still need approve, within that range, you still need conditional.
It has more to do with the use in those areas rather than, we're fine with the percentage of disturbance. There are certain uses that, for example, you can put a house in steep slope by conditional use, or you can put stormwater management facilities or cut and fill related to certain things. Those are the kinds of conditional use we need, but we're fine on the percentages.
And so for the disturbance you're planning, you need conditional use because it's what?
It's the use.
It's the use.
No, I'm asking what your use is. Like if those were uses, I don't need conditional use.
Oh, yeah.
The
Yes.
two uses we're proposing, and we have a little bit to discuss. Eric is
This is talking about.
interpreted one section a little differently that we want to clarify. But we are proposing disturbance related to the emergency access connection. Thank you for that sheet. The emergency access connection, and then also for grading in lots, which we read as a permitted use in steep slopes in yards, side yards, front yards, rear yards. And then a conditional use is cut and fill related to the permitted uses. So we read
Right.
that we're allowed to have a side yard or rear yard to the house. And then that's permitted, doesn't require conditional use. We need conditional use
This one.
because the next section said a conditional use is cut or fill related to the permitted uses.
Right.
So that's what we're asking for conditional use. And then there's also the provision, and I'm paraphrasing, but for, a driveway or a road, if there's no other feasible location that disturbs steep or very steep slope. And even when you do those conditional uses, you are still absolutely limited to the maximum permissible amount. My understanding is if we were trying to disturb more than the maximum permissible amount, we would need a zoning relief, not just a conditional use.
And can you define just for everybody, the cut and fill? Exactly, I mean, is that clearing and then filling to level or?
I read cut and fill as we're destroying the earth, but not building a structure. And so it's saying that, cut and fill means we can be removing earth, cut. we
It's
can
like
be
grading, whatever,
fill,
yeah.
Grading.
Great.
Grading. So this plan, the only thing colored on this plan are the slope encroachments. So most of the areas are this magenta color, which is the steep slope disturbance. That's between 15 and 25%. So we have little pieces on different lots throughout, but not actually where the houses are. And then there is 25 square feet of very steep slope, which is greater than 25%, at two little spots along the emergency access. So I think I mentioned that when we went to the emergency access, we could come up with a different horizontal and vertical geometry that still works for access for emergency vehicles, but would not work for just a street, which allowed us to avoid more steep slopes, minimize the wetland disturbance, and how we cross the riparian buffer. But even though I really tried, there was no way to avoid these little teeny bits of very steep slope. So we have to cross the riparian buffer, the wetlands, and places of slope in order to get between the two townships. So in order to provide that emergency access connection, that's why we're doing that, and that is our rationale for the requesting the conditional use for the emergency access driveway road.
And then just for process. You've already said you'll be back in, there's gonna be revisions, we have a significant engineering letter. We don't wanna grind through them all if you. So, I guess are there any specific ones, and I'll turn it to Eric afterwards, if there's any sort of ones that you think are worth further discussion with the board before you work on it more, and then let Eric comment if he wants to throw any in, just not to go through 60 items.
And making sure that we are in fact requesting the correct conditional uses. Several of the sections dealing with the slopes, when you read them on their own, they make sense. When you read multiple ones together, it's less clear how they could be. And we've submitted this plan in October. We got comments from Eric, we got comments from Andy. We talked to both of them multiple times. We thought we were matching up with what would make it simpler, but we still did get some comments that show that we're not 100% in agreement, at least how we were documenting what we did. And so we've talked to Eric since then, but I think we need to show what we're doing and what our reasoning is, go over it with Eric and Andy, get their feedback, make sure we're on the right track and we're showing it that way. That's the biggest thing I see on here. I did not see any individual technical comments. The fire marshal made comments about the hydrants. That's no problem. Comments about access. I actually corresponded with Carl back and forth because there are also different sections in the fire code that talk about how you provide access and what the width of your emergency access is. And we agreed that we should go over these things together and make sure we're on the same page. Because obviously we've got to, have Carl thinking that we're meeting the requirements of the fire code for public safety. There's no, alternative to that. If Eric has something specific he wants to bring up, I'm happy to hear it to make sure we know to address that. If we need to discuss it tonight to do that.
Yeah, just a few points from your presentation. So I think you're correct. The particular code sections that would fall into the conditional use, I think we'll work through that. The end result is they will need a conditional use. But is it point A, B, or C in the code? We'll verify all those points between the staff and the applicant. I just wanted to just raise with the discussion about traffic impact study, just so everyone is on the same page, the code requirement is a formal traffic impact study is required when there's 25 or more residential dwellings in development. So just a caveat, what that previous application they would have had, I believe that was connecting directly into the Marple application, so it would have had more residential dwellings. Not to say we don't want traffic information from them, but there is a certain threshold in the code that's connected to that.
The fact that the two parts of the development are connected, even for emergency purposes. Does this mean that Newtown Township has to consider more traffic coming from Marple or not?
I didn't
Well-
catch your question, I'm sorry.
Say it again, so there's no,
Well, yeah, the township, Newtown Township ordinance requires a traffic impact study only up to, how many you said? Five residential properties,
25.
25, I'm sorry. And we don't have it here.
Mhm.
So the question is, if we should take into consideration the number of properties in Marple for the decision-making about the necessity of a traffic study or not. Or we just say there is no connection physically, and so we don't have 25.
But there is a connection.
Right, so
Well,
my
it-
question is, how do we, what is our
But they-
attitude for
I
that?
think there's gonna be bollards or something there. It's
Yeah,
not gonna be
there's no-
for traffic.
Nobody other than emergency services can go through from one township to the other.
Not on a regular basis. In case of emergency, who knows?
The only way it would be used if there was an emergency.
Correct.
okay, so we will, of course, be vetting that one out further. As far as, their discussion on the,
As a resident of Newtown,
Oh,
we're
fifty
gonna wait
dollars
for a
at
public
township.
comment. Yeah, but I'm gonna talk right now.
Hold on.
Is
No,
that
no,
point
no.
of order?
We'll have public comment. We'll have public comment.
You will have it.
Yes. I expect we'll have significant public comment.
and then just as far as, they have the open space identified, there also is a provision that there is a certain amount of recreational land that's associated with the residential development, so that'll be part of it. But then really out of my comments, I think there's just one comment that might be worthwhile, a discussion that has to do with pedestrian circulation. So there is a provision in the code that do sidewalks make sense in a development like this? Along the property frontage and or internal to the development. Or there's also provisions of code, if it's a better fit for its use, is having access, various trail easements or other facilities that would connect and provide accommodations for this development and for the broader community. So I don't know if that might be something that's worthwhile to input from this community, from this group.
You mentioned recreational
Mhm.
space. Is there dedicated, is that required?
There's a requirement for 1,000 square feet per residential dwelling.
And where is that on the plan?
It is not. There's also an option to provide a fee in lieu.
Correct, which there
What's
is.
the fee?
I don't have, the fee, it adds up to, it's $160,000 per acre of land. So it is not a small fee if you were to opt it, but they are correct. It is provide the space or there is a provision to.
Where is the nearest rail system that this development may connect to? Is there one in the area?
I'm not aware of a nearby trail nor other adjacent, sidewalks on Gradyville.
There's no sign.
I think there's always a debate about sidewalks in the development, and I think you get different opinions about whether in a smaller development, people want to use the sidewalks or they want to walk in the street, and all you're doing is putting extra paving in a green strip that's more difficult for the homeowners to maintain. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you one's right, one's wrong. I mean, I do know we've done larger jobs. And I do see people using the sidewalk, but that's when, like, we did the redevelopment, I was involved with the redevelopment of the Edgemont Country Club. There are sidewalks there, but there are hundreds of houses. I've been there a lot. And there are people walking, people with strollers on the sidewalk, but that's because there are dozens of cars a lot of time. I mean, there will literally be 9 families of cars driving on these streets and each one on a cul-de-sac. You know,
Are they sidewalks in the Marple development?
in Marple,
Yeah, I know the adjacent development, are
first
the
three
sidewalk there?
lots.
Lots 1 through.
No, the
3.
whole development. Nope.
I would say this, the township has been asking for sidewalks along the roadway, so, and I'm not necessarily speaking within the development, but along Gradyville. We've done that, if you recall, I think you made the recommendation to the board to do that at Stony Knoll. They've actually come back and done trail across the front there, and they're actually going to extend it beyond what was originally asked in that. So that may be something that you consider. That's been something we did at the Porsche dealership. That's something we did at other places for connection. I'm guessing the board's going to request that. And that may be the recommendation that you would make as the commission as well.
on the east side of the property, near the road connection and across the back of lot 7, it's very easy to envision either how you provide a sidewalk or a meandering trail, either in or adjacent to the right of way. It becomes a little trickier to figure out what we would do in the open space where the riparian buffer actually extends into the street because we're getting close to the crossing of Hunter's Run. I'm not telling you it can't be done. I'm just saying we would in fact have to do something in the riparian buffer. And maybe there is an option to build some of it and provide funds for the rest so that when there's somewhere for it to go, it makes more sense. But, you know, I think if there's a reasonable suggestion, we'd certainly consider how we can make that work.
If you're finished, I'll go to public comment and then we'll,
Yeah, I
Circle
think
back.
if you don't have any more questions, you know.
yeah, well, we'll probably have a few after comment, but so for public comment, please step up to the lectern. Do we have a microphone up there?
Yes, I turned it on.
Okay, please give it name and address first. And just to add, I do have some emails submitted by members of the township. When everyone's done, some of them are long, I'll give a summary just so everyone can hear them.
I'm Francie Strathman, and I'm here with my husband Fred Strathman, and we live at 3840 Gradyville Road.
It's Nancy?
Francie,
Francie.
Francy. We're asking the Planning Commission to deny the conditional use variances and plans for the Four Seasons. Fred and I are neighbors to the west of the developer's properties. We live in a 280-year-old house, and we are the 5th generation to family to live here. We take stewardship of this land very seriously and have grave concerns as to what is happening to the lands around us and those around the perimeter of the reservoir. Our concerns include the forest. This developer is known for clear cutting. I assume you've all driven through the Marple side of the plan and have seen the aerial photographs that show the clear cut and then the Newtown forest. For the Marple side, they walked the land with the neighbors walked the land with the developer, and trees were marked to keep. The trees were not, they were clear cut. The aerial view shows you this. We respect the rights of the developer as a landowner, but ask that a different approach be taken. That the developer respect the land and the vision of the homeowners in the township. Fewer houses, no clear cutting, use of 100-foot riparian buffers. How about getting the lands trust involved? A conservation easement, as members of our family have done on adjacent lands. We ask the developer to change it up and create a legacy in Newtown Township to be one of preservation, not destruction. There's much said about the plans for reforestation, of cutting down dead trees, planting new ones. We know that, let's see, I'm just going to move ahead. The arborist has said a sampling of specimen and tree data was collected. It appears, so Is that accurate? Does that really say the exact number and size and age of the trees? The map seems to designate a removal of 23 heritage trees and keeping about 7 or 8. These are 150 to 200 or more year-old trees. They shouldn't be taken out just for a placement of a house. The developer says 90% of the heritage trees are dead or dying. How do we know if only a sampling has been done? With deforestation comes the destruction of wildlife. This area is full of birds, deer, fox, raccoons, possums, and more. The wildlife corridor will be destroyed. Eagles fly through the cove and into this forest. And then let's not forget the bog turtles. Where will all these animals go? They'll go into our yards and our roads, and more destruction of neighbors' landscaping and more accidents on Gradyville Road. Make sure you drive through the Marple side at night. The light pollution is incredible. The lake shimmers with reflections of lighting from the houses. Newtown Township is a bird town. It has a lights out program for bird migration. We don't see any of this addressed. The riparian buffers. If calling this a revision is a tactic to keep the 50-foot buffers, I think that's ludicrous, because this is a totally different plan that's anything else that's been given to the township. Somebody else is going to speak to this. The wetlands obviously is a huge thing. The last study looks like it was done in 2016. And did the study in 2025 go to the Army Corps of Engineers? If not, it should have. The plans call for underground water basins and pipes. This just creates more ground disturbance and draws attention to the fact that they are building on land that is not conducive to development. The lot size is a concern. We don't want to see the lieu of fee in lieu of recreation. We see that as a way of buying themselves out of what's right for this land. The new road onto Gradyville would be extremely dangerous due to the curves, hills, traffic, and speeds. Why should we bear the dangerous brunt of more traffic? Why not leave the driveways of the 2 houses on Gradyville Road there, flip the plan, and have the emergency access road to Gradyville and the other road for the houses to go through Marple? That they could go out to Media Line Road where it isn't dangerous. There's no speeding traffic, and it's an easy access to 252. Almost done. Our last greatest fear is about the future. The developer's plans show a cul-de-sac at the western border of this parcel. Is this the gateway to his additional plans? As homeowners and multi-generational stewards, we are terrified of what they have planned next. We worry about granting variances to this developer and setting precedents for future destruction of the last pieces of undeveloped land in our township and forest for the reservoir. We ask the members, to walk this land. Don't make decisions without being on this land. Drive Gradyville Road at various times of night and day. Sit in the backed up traffic. Be familiar with the Marple side. We must remember that our township comprehensive plan is to protect our natural resources. This plan is not in line with those goals and vision of the township. Thank you.
Anybody else? And I would add, please don't repeat, just for purpose of kind of getting through.
Ed Moore. I live at 9 Frog Hollow Lane in Newtown Square. Been there for 35 years. 2 things. First of all, I think the township needs to relook at their ordinances. Was how can you approve a 21-acre parcel without a traffic study that you're going to get 12 lots on? Your ordinance calls for you have to have 24 lots. You're not going to have many more pieces of property in this township that you're going to get more than 24 lots on. Everything's built. So something has to be changed. You can't approve this project without a traffic study for Gradyville Road. Am I right or wrong?
The current zoning code is the
I
applicable
don't care
zoning
what the
code.
zoning code is. It's criminal to approve a project in Newtown Township with 12 houses on Gradyville Road without a traffic study. And the developer, he allotted for open space. He gave you wetlands, he gave you steep slopes. That's never going to fly in the county, Delaware County Planning Commission. I mean, they're gonna show you where they want the open space, and it's probably gonna be the nicest part of the project where the houses are gonna go. I mean, they're not gonna take the junk ground that, I mean, at least he allowed for some open space, but they're not gonna take steep slopes and wetlands for open space, not in Delaware County. So they're the two things that I think need to be addressed. And I appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Thank
And we're
you.
waiting on the Delaware County Planning Commission at this point. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Megan Kohler. I live at 3714, so right there, Gradyville Road. My husband and I moved here about 10 years ago, completely oblivious to what was going on in our backyard. It did not exist when we purchased the property. I have two young boys, they're 7 and 9. We love this community, we live it now, and I drive up and down Gradyville all day long. So I'm gonna stick to the topic of traffic. I'll be your traffic report. I have numerous videos on my phone of the traffic backed up from 252 down to the bend. When I'm trying to just leave for work, it takes me sometimes minutes to get out of my driveway and to get to 252 that I can see. Let's see, my kid's bus, my bus stop is at the bottom of my driveway. I fear for my child's life every day because the bus comes off of 252 and my kids have to cross to get on. Exactly. So my husband and I are there every single day because people barrel up our street going 60 miles an hour plus and do not stop with the stop sign there. I have filed numerous complaints with the township about it. And I have this email from Officer Tyler Vandegrift. Again, to keep it short, he says, we've measured speed in both directions several times, and Gradyville Road is one of the few in town that has a legitimate speeding issue, not just a perceived one. That being said, he handles all the complaints. Your street has a very high 85th percentile and has a history of bad crashes. We have so far had one body in our driveway. If you guys remember the motorcycle accident in February of 2023 with the left-hand turn, my husband was the first person to that man, and my son witnessed to that accident. Then we had the kid that passed away on Super Bowl. Okay, that was just solely speeding. And as much as the township is aware of it, I'm very appreciative for everything everyone does in this township. It's a great place to live. I see very little police officers, no one's there, doing anything about it. So adding, and correct me if I'm wrong, can you actually confirm this for me? You said that this is for 12 single-family dwellings, 3 of which are on the Marple side. So that brings us down to 9. You said of those 9, 3 of them are going to use the Marple Township anyway. So you're talking about building a street for 6 houses onto our busy road? Is that, yeah, because you have future.
Doesn't usually say SR.
But 3 are on the
It
Marple
should-
side
should-
and 6 are going to be for Newtown Square. Correct, but you said 12 single-family dwellings, 3 of which are on the Marple side. Okay,
Please
And
use
then-
the mic.
9, okay. But for 9 homes, you can't push them out to the Media Line Road. You want to add to the issues that are already existing that aren't being addressed. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And again, that's my kid's bus stop, okay? So I'm begging the board to deny this, begging. I could go on and on. I have a letter actually from an old neighbor that, again, I'd be happy to pass out to you guys so that you have it for your records if it's okay to approach. And she very much thought about everything.
The question is, Gradyville's a state road or township?
At that location, Gradyville is a township road.
Township road.
It's
Yeah, so between-
Township road here, it's a state road to the east.
Okay,
Between
not-
Bishop
not
Hollow.
in the vicinity of the project. Near the project, it is a township road, right?
Township road.
Between Bishop Hollow Road and 252, it is a township owned.
We can make a copy of it.
Yeah. Oh.
We really,
Oh.
if you're gonna make comment, I need
Yes.
people to go to the microphone. We're recording the meeting.
Thank you.
And if that comment can't be recorded, if you don't go, please.
Gentleman's coming up. The issue of the 9 homes going on maybe to the board, directed to the board, or maybe if you guys have a better understanding. What's this adjacent property discussion of additional cars accessing that same tributary?
Well,
Where's that point coming from?
10 years ago, when it was discussed, then there would be a free pass to
Right,
Grady.
I got that.
Right. Question now is, it's also a definition of an emergency, when, if an ambulance needs to go through, or there is a fire and then a fire truck needs to go through, it's one thing. If there is an emergency in the whole area, then you have a rush of many cars.
Okay, I was trying to.
There's potential
distinguish
for passenger
between-
vehicles.
Right.
I'm trying.
No,
to
no,
How
hold on.
realistic it is, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to distinguish, I get emergency, the emergency thing is, to me, is, okay, I'm not gonna say no over the emergency issue necessarily. What I'm saying is there an adjacent undeveloped property that is gonna then flood that additionally?
I'm more
It-
concerned, not so.
I think I have the
Wait,
answer
please.
if I could.
Name, please.
Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run. Francie alluded to it in her comments, but she went very quickly. I think what she's alluding to is if you look at the plans, you'll see the road comes in and it bends to the left. At the end, you'll see a cul-de-sac. That, and if you look at that cul-de-sac very, very carefully, you'll see a little bump. And it appears that that road is intended to continue to go on to this lot, which the applicant also owns, adjacent to her home. And if you see, that makes sense because there's only one home to the left of the intersection in the cul-de-sac. And that home could very easily have its driveway go into that road, but it goes up. And that whole extension.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're correct, that's something else, but the issue is, if I may, the issue is, even if we ignore this cul-de-sac, and it is actually a potential for extension, but even if we ignore that, I think what we heard from two ladies before is that Gradyville as it is today, without the additional traffic, is problematic enough to warrant some more consideration, whether it is written so in the code, in the ordinance or not.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
I
I live
understand
off
the
of,
issue better.
I live off of Gradyville Road. And I completely agree. It's, people drive very, very fast on Gradyville Road. So one of my concerns is where is the entrance to these 9 homes on Gradyville? I see a little bit of that curve. I'm not exactly sure, but it just, that's really concerning to me, given I've lived here 14 years and traffic that I've seen at all hours of the day and how fast people.
It's also site distances and all that. Difficult.
Name and address, please.
Christopher Roner, 3731 Gradyville Road. I'm here with my wife Yvonne, and I'd like to address a few of our concerns.
Excuse me, before you continue. Very roughly, can you point out on the map where approximately your house is? Which direction?
Right across from number 8 on the other side of the road.
Okay,
Right across the street from on Gradyville. 3733 is the driveway.
Okay.
The next driveway is 3731. We own that. We own 3727, which is up a little further. And then right across from the access road, proposed access road, we own 3725, which we're looking to develop. And our new driveway would be right across the street from that access road. So I have a lot of stake here. This, as you know, some of you may know that I opposed this in 2017. So I've been with this a long time, and went through the state for appeal with the township. And we had the original proposal denied. But our biggest issues are the traffic and the accidents. This is the most dangerous road in Newtown Township. It's had the highest accidents. There's no traffic control. It's impossible. I've offered my driveway to the police department, Chris Lund. I said, anytime you guys want to park there and you know, do some traffic control, it's fine with me. And nothing's been proved. It's gotten worse over the years. And that's why I really believe we need another traffic study. I think you're going to find a difference in the way the traffic is since the last time it was done. So place of this access road is just adds too much more traffic to the road that's already dangerous. And I agree with Francie that why can't we turn this traffic back towards Media Line Road? That Media Line Road doesn't have any issues, doesn't have a history of accidents, doesn't have a history of high traffic. That would be the best. If you wanted to put an emergency access road in, put it at Gradyville Road. Put a gate there. Let that be used for emergency access. And why those two houses that have driveways on Gradyville Road now can't stay that way? That's the way they're built. They've been that way for 50 years. Why not leave it that way? Why do you have to put them back on towards Media Line Road or on that access road? So there's a lot of issues. Francie mentioned the wildlife and the trees and the vegetation and all that, and I'm 100% behind all that. There's an HOA plan that I understand is in place, but it has a 2-year term. Why is that? What happens after the 2 years? Who controls the emergency access road? Who decides whether it's an emergency access or not? When's it open? When's it closed? And who's going to monitor that? Does it have DEP approval? R1 zoning, 60,000 square feet, which I think that we should stay with the 60,000 square feet. You've got a lot of wetlands and you've got a lot of steep slopes that are an issue. They need to be looked at very hard. And the other issue, regardless of where the traffic ends up going, is what is going to happen with that future cul-de-sac and to west of it, and where's all that traffic going to go? I think that needs to be eliminated. If they want to do something over here and develop this in the future, let them have their own access road to wherever. The natural place to put it, and then you don't have it on this map, but if you go further across the creek and you come up behind Springton Point, all those houses are facing interior. So any road that comes out there is just going to face the back of those homes, which have a nice screen of vegetation. That would be a natural place to put the future access road. So in conclusion, we oppose it. We'd like to see, if it does go through, we'd like to see the traffic get diverted back to Media Line Road. And we hope we have your support in doing that. Thank you.
To the developer, what would keep you from doing that? Putting it on Media Line? Well, there are pros and cons, but
You're talking about Newtown Township property that now has to exit through Marple Township. I
Yes.
mean,
yes,
We said no to that the first time through.
it's exactly.
This is not a yes or no, but when we had a through street through there, we had more steep slope disturbance, more disturbance to the wetlands, and more
They
disturbance.
did not go anywhere anyhow.
So by having the emergency access connect the two townships, we've minimized those disturbances. Steep slope, wetlands, and riparian buffer impact.
Thank you. Name and address, please.
Hello, it's Pop Shenny and 12 Springton Point Drive. I need reading glasses to see the map, but I'm halfway down Springton Point behind the Strathments. A big picture. First of all, I just wanted to thank all of you for the work that you do on the township. We appreciate it. We know it's sometimes thankless work. personally have a very, very strong objection to the development based on safety issues and also environmental disruption. All of this just for additional 9 homes. These are roughly from a mileage standpoint, but because my concerns on Gradyville, which I go back and forth on a daily basis. If we measure from Springton Point Drive to 252, it's roughly 2.2 miles, plus or minus. And I drove it, and if we go a 1.5 of the 2.2 miles going eastbound towards 252 has no shoulder whatsoever, literally a few inches. If we head westbound, only 1.3 of the 2.2 miles has a shoulder. Also at 3821 Gradyville, there are 2 extraordinarily large trees that are not coming down. They're literally inches away. I invite you to drive it, but literally inches away from the road itself. So when you're heading east towards 252, as people are coming westbound, you constantly are seeing cars pulling over towards the yellow line just to avoid the 2 large trees. I know it's been discussed with Len in the township before about the deer population, which is horrendous, especially at this time of night. And poorly lit road on Gradyville, and big picture at the curve by the, I guess it's the Gradyville River. Less than a year ago, that guardrail was taken out with an accident. So just in my eyes, for an additional nine homes, which will add another 18 cars to a dangerous road, is not worth it. And just out of curiosity, just so I can do quick calculations, what's the township budget on an annual basis? Rough number.
12 million.
12 million. So quick math, but I pay about $12,000 a year on an annual basis in real estate taxes. And of the 9 homes, how many would be within Newtown Township?
All of them.
Pardon?
All of them.
All of them. So
All 12 of them.
Okay. Quick math, but just in my simple eyes, if we take $12,000 per home in real estate taxes times 9, get about $108,000. And based on the budget, and thankfully you've done a great job with the township, for an additional $108,000 for a $12 million budget, to me, in terms of the environmental issues, which are extreme, and the wetlands issues and the safety issues, it's terrible, especially around that curve at all times of the day. And I know one of the neighbors had talked about an accident, but it would be horrific if somewhere down the road there was an accident for one of the 9 homeowners because they've got access to Gradyville Road. So strong objection, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody, I'm Evan Pappas, 124 Tyson Road. I'm going to speak from the perspective of the Trails and Greenways Committee, not as a local resident, so I'm not going to talk about traffic or any of that stuff. I'm just going to tell you guys what we think from the Trails and Greenways Committee, give you guys our recommendations, so I'll keep it brief. In the comprehensive plan from 2016, the township had designated this entire lot. Tim, can you put up the green? Tim, can you put up the green color maps? I think it's a lot easier to read than this, everybody. Thank you. The township had designated this entire lot and the lot adjacent to it as potential open space. I assume that means we're giving up on that if we're recommending this development. Next thing I want to point out, coming up the side here, next to the creek, this is designated as future trail number 9. If this is to be recommended, we'd like to see future trail number 9 being included in the plans for this development, or set aside for the next property, which is owned by the same developer. Also, bike trail number 4 is along Gradyville Road. We'd like to see that portion done as well while this is being built. And also, the last point from Trails and Greenways is we would like to recommend that this driveway access from here and that this section of road not be built. Thank you.
You have a map of of the, where it would start, where it would go?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have the entire
I know,
map here, but it's It's the section, I don't have copies for you guys.
No, that's fine. I mean, if you could provide
Yeah,
it to the
it's
applicant.
the, it's the Trails and Greenways plan that was, I think it was done in 2019, if I remember correctly. And it's the sections of 9 and 4 that are adjacent to.
They can get access to it.
It's publicly available on the website.
Okay,
Buddy.
I just want to check. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good evening, my name is Patty Rich. I live at 3801 Bradyville, which is from the Bend to past the bridge on the north side. I am concerned about the runoff. When I moved into this property in 2001, I could step across Hunter Run in a couple of places. Now, if we get a rain of 2 inches in an afternoon, that new bridge, well, Hunter Run hits the bridge. If we get 3 inches, Hunter Run goes over the bridge. If we pave more, why did we build that bridge? Why? And that was an ordeal. That was a 4-year ordeal of dead animals floating in stagnant water. It was atrocious. It was horrendous. So I've come to oppose the plan to extend Four Seasons development to Gradyville Road. Gradyville Road is a busy old road. It's narrow, and sometimes it has more traffic than it can handle. On a weekday at 5 p.m., the traffic can back up from the light at the Baptist Church down to the bridge. Connecting new construction to an old problem would be unsupportable and irresponsible. My house sits up where there's this odd curve and a twist to the road. That curve is tricky no matter which way you're driving. You can't see around the bend, coming or going. From my kitchen, I can hear vehicles when they leave the road and crash through the brush. I can hear the tires squeal too late. I can hear cars smack into the street signs and the deer. When it snows, I go out and help people get out of their cars or get their cars back on the road. Sometimes they come to my door. And sometimes they can't. Tim Veal could not be here tonight. Tim's son Nathan came around that odd curve with a twist about 2.5 years ago. Car left the road and he did not survive the crash. Tim texted me today and he wrote, "My wife and I agree that a cross street on that curve would be very dangerous. To add another traffic feature to an already precarious stretch of road would be courting disaster."
Good evening, I'm John Custer, 4022 Goshen Road, and I'm also on the Trails and Greenways Committee. I would like to bring up an item which should be in the back of everybody's mind. When Hunter's Run crosses the road and goes into this development here, it flows into a canyon, very steep on either side. I've been down it. It is drop dead gorgeous. Now, I've been involved in most of the walking trails here in the township, but this would be, no questions asked, a jewel in the trail plan in town township. And it's all the way on the left here. I think it's fairly far removed from any proposed houses. A walking trail down there could get us all the way to the reservoir. What we would also like is some parking area next to Gradyville Road so that people can park. Hopefully, we can have a continuation going across the street. When I was supervisor, I made sure there were easements on the waters above that. So it would be fairly easy to join this to the other, but in the meantime, we would need a parking space for this to occur. So keep that in mind and thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Luck-Young. I live at 11 Springton Point Drive, which is in the Springton Residents Association. Further to the left over here, Pop lives across the street from me. We're a community of about 70 homes and our only ingress and egress is onto Gradyville Road. Now, we're kind of further down, closer to Bishop Hollow, so we don't have from our spot that much traffic trying to get out of our development. But of course, all of us have to use Gradyville Road, east and west, every single day, every time we leave. And the conditions are horrible. I don't have any wonderful heartfelt stories like some of the other public comments here today, which were all very wonderful, and thank you all for sharing. That's my personal concern. I do have a letter from Ashi Bhan, who's the president of the Homeowners Association. Again, we represent 70 homes, most of which are in Newtown Township. Most of the points have all been brought up regarding steep slope disturbance, environmental concerns, Gradyville Road. I just wanted to let the residents that were here know that the Springton Point Residents Association also has objections to the conditional use application.
Thank you. And if we can wrap up by 8:30, sure.
So I'm Ashi. I just, you'll apologize for my dress. We just came off of
Doesn't mean you.
Hope you
might-
won.
a baseball victory. Yes, the game got canceled the day before, replayed today. So, yes, we beat Aston 15-10. So
Congratulations.
apologies for my dress. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. So Cindy, was kind enough to go through the letter. And I guess we could submit that for testimony, tonight, if that's okay. I'd like to, I think there were some wonderful points brought up here by the neighbors today. I just want to ask a couple things that have not been asked. How about signage in the R1 district? You haven't talked about signage to the entrance? Does the developer have anything to say about that?
Are you just gonna have a street sign? Typical?
I assume so. That's the least of our concerns at this point. We really have to.
Well, you'd be surprised. Signage is actually not allowed in the R1 district. So you won't be able to have a sign without a zoning permission. We just redid at the homeowners association our signage at the front entrance, and it was quite an ordeal. So I just would love to know it's a big concern for the township. So please let us know what you plan on doing with signage. As Andy can attest, signs are not allowed in the R1. Yes. Secondly, I want to read something and put it on the record in terms of something I received from the Chesapeake Bay watershed, talking about runoff. It reads, as rainwater and snowmelt run off our streets, parking lots, lawns, and other surfaces, they pick up pet waste, pesticides, fertilizer, oil, and other contaminants. If the draining water doesn't evaporate or soak into the ground where it can be filtered, it flushes straight into local creeks, rivers, and the Chesapeake Bay. In this case, it would be the reservoir, adversely affecting water life and aquatic life. Only 10 to 20, and I'll just finish with this. Only 10 to 20% of rain that falls in forests, fields, and other natural areas runs off, with the rest absorbed by soil and plants where it is filtered before reaching local waterways. By contrast, close to 100% of the rain that falls on concrete and other hard surfaces produces runoff. 1 inch of rain falling on an acre of hardened surface produces 27,000 gallons of runoff. So this, I would say to you, makes us all a little nervous about the runoff into the reservoir. And just following on that point, I would love to know what the Delaware County Conservation, who is in charge of the reservoir, has said about this project or issued a permit.
Would they be contacted in the course of the planning commission for Delaware County?
We haven't gotten anything from the county yet, so I don't know who's looking at it.
I mean, is.
Okay,
part
yeah.
of this
So
is-
no word yet.
This is an application for conditional use and the preliminary land development. If those two things are approved, there would be a final land development plan. And as part of that process, we have to get an NPDES
Yes,
stormwater permit from DEP and the County Conservation District.
right. And that's for the discharge or potential discharge of stormwater into waters of the Commonwealth from construction.
Correct.
Right. Okay, that permit is gonna require erosion and sediment control plans and construction stormwater management plans to be submitted.
Yes.
When are we gonna submit those?
If we get preliminary and conditional use approval, those plans are done as part of the final plan process.
I see. And who does the engineering review of those plans?
The County Conservation District and DEP, but the same plan becomes the final plan and it's reviewed by the township engineer,
Right.
township staff or other things.
Okay, so that, you're planning on doing that,
Yes.
soon. Okay, wonderful. Great, well, you know, again, I'm from the HOA. We had a difficult time redoing our signage. And so we're concerned about your signage there and also about the groundwater runoff and also the impact on the reservoir there, because there's a lot of stormwater runoff. So, thank you very much for listening. And I didn't want to read that letter, I would take too long, but
You can provide it to the township and they can.
yeah,
circulate
Mrs.
it.
Kennedy said you can, I'd have to read it for it to be testimony. Can I just submit it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Submit it to the
There's no
township.
testimony here tonight.
Or whatever it is, sir, I can read your email if you'd like, but she told me you just can't send it in, so that's why.
Thank you.
That's
That's
fine.
why I'm here off the game.
We'll be good.
So, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
Last one.
Hi, Cindy Mahalo, 87 Hunters Run. I'm a member of the Newtown Township Environmental Advisory Council. First, I'd like to thank each one of you for your time and your service. I know you put a lot of thought and effort into this. And I always like to begin by reminding everyone, as you, I'm sure, are aware of this, but the audience may not, that as members of the township government, we are looked to from the public to render decisions that uphold the Pennsylvania Constitution, Article 1, Section 27, also known as the Equal Rights, Environmental Rights Amendment. That amendment establishes the right of the people to a clean environment and establishes the Commonwealth's role as the trustee of natural resources. It guarantees citizens' rights to clean air and pure water, and to the preservation of the environment's natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values. It also declares that the Commonwealth holds Pennsylvania's public natural resources in trust for all its citizens, including future generations. That is a heavy responsibility, and I'd like to thank you again for your time and consideration. Many good points have been raised here. I'll try to be quick. I know the applicant has had 8 months to develop this plan, and I would ask the board for their indulgence for a few more minutes for the public to comment after they've had 8 months to work on this. So I will be very quick and move quickly through. First of all, I'd like to point out the comprehensive plan, which several other people mentioned certain parts of it. The comprehensive plan natural resources element cites the Springton Point Reservoir as one of only 2 core habitat areas in the township because of its uniquely sensitive and important environmental characteristics and the role it plays in preserving not only the environment, but protecting the residents of the township and their property. It is uniquely sensitive. It needs to be preserved at the highest level of functioning, again, to best protect residents, not only of Newtown Square, but of Delaware County, and all the people who drink from the Springton Reservoir. 280,000 people drink that water. So because of the unique role of Springton Reservoir in supporting drinking water, it's very important to protect steep slopes. This has been mentioned before. It is important that stormwater be managed to the utmost. I'd like to point out something that wasn't mentioned specifically, and that is that the plan calls for separate stormwater infrastructure on privately owned lots that are to be maintained by the landowners. My concern is for the process of ensuring the ongoing functioning of these underground basins. I think our engineer could probably assert and agree that to maintain their proper functioning, they need to be maintained. It's not a set it and forget it. So the success of this stormwater management plan, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, depends on the homeowners each maintaining their own infrastructure on their lots. Also, so that's important. I would also like to point out for the public that the Environmental Advisory Council has submitted 2 comment letters, one on the October plan and one on this plan. In both instances, for all the reasons cited tonight and others, we have urged and recommended the board to not grant the conditional uses. I'd like to talk a little bit about the woodland management plan, which I think is innovative. It's very interesting. I appreciate all the time and effort the applicant has put in working with the township arborist. I think there are a lot of really good things about it. I could comment on a lot of details, but what I'm going to focus on now is the future of that plan. I live in an HOA. My husband served as president on the board. I served as the grounds coordinator. So I've seen from the inside how HOAs work. The entire success of this woodland management plan rests on that HOA, which doesn't exist now. We don't know how it's going to be structured. This is going to be, I have a question here for the applicant. Is there an HOA currently for the Marple homes? How many homes are part of that? 3? 38. Okay, and will the residents of the Newtown part join that HOA? Okay, so that HOA is already functioning. I don't know, HOAs can function very differently. My HOA, I only owned up to the outside of my building. Other HOAs, the homeowners have different levels of responsibility for their property, for the open space, the wetlands. The woodland management plan is lovely in large part, but after the developer walks away, hands over the property to the HOA, what happens? We don't know who that HOA is, what their responsibility is. It's volunteers. You're going to have 9 homeowners managing this.
12.
Okay, 12.
Well, they'll submit the HOA documents. I mean, that's going to be part of the process.
Good. But I just know our HOA has 100 people and we can't get people to serve on the board. So if you're giving the HOA responsibility to maintain the open space, to maintain the woodlands, how is that really going to happen? I liked hearing that the Shade Tree Commission said that they wanted the arborist to go on, have responsibility or the authority to go inspect these open space. I also manage the rain gardens here in township. So I'm constantly battling invasive plants. I've supervised tree planting here.
If you please focus on this application.
Okay.
We want to keep it moving.
Is invasive plants will come back into here, and as part of the management plan, it only goes out 2 years. And it specifies that invasives will be controlled every 5 or 10 years. It'll be a disaster.
Isn't that the case with every HOA?
But other HOAs aren't putting forth the management plan, the woodland management plan, as a key selling point for approving the property.
But it sounds like they're not even making a similar threshold. Okay, but you're saying they're going to a higher threshold, what they're willing to do.
Which is great, but I'm saying we have to think about, will it really happen? Will it be maintained?
Well, let's leave that as part of the HOA. We really need to keep moving.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, Sarah, make it quick.
Good evening, Sheila O'Sullivan Feeney, 120 Beechwood Road, Newtown Square, EAC Chair. I'm going to be brief. I could go on for 25 minutes, but I'm going to save your night. Okay. You're going to look at our EAC comment letter. You're going to see a lot of information, and you're going to see some questions that are going to hit. But I want you to remember this. We asked for a wildlife study. And why are we asking for that? I pulled up an IPAC, which is from U.S. Fish and Wildlife, to show us what could potentially be in this area. We have 5 endangered species. And also, as you know, this area had the bog turtle. So there's an additional concern because when you have the habitat of the bog turtle, and if you have actually a bog turtle, you have a 300-foot perimeter. There's also the gold eagle and the bald eagle, and there's 5 migratory plants. But I won't go into all the details, and we'll talk about it at your next meeting. We are concerned about the green infrastructure. We're looking at blue infrastructure. But another thing that we're greatly concerned, although we believe the 100-foot riparian buffer should be in effect, especially because there's an 8-month difference in terms of the original application to the sick one, we'll let that all sit. However, we are asking for a jurisdictional delineation. And I remember there was a delineation done in 2016. And in April of 2025, they reflagged and confirmed that. And that was a wetland scientist, I believe.
Yes.
Yes. So they did that, which is wonderful, right? So they didn't even do a full delineation, wetlands delineation. You can understand why. The scientist can look from his computer and verify it's pretty good based on information. However, we asked for a jurisdictional delineation. And the difference is a wetlands delineation is a technical thing. Jurisdictional has legal implications because of the Clean Water Act, because of the proximity to clean water, which is essential for both our community and economically to our community, but the people's lives and the quality of the water is very important. We would like a jurisdictional delineation to verify the Clean Water Act and all of the regulations that would apply. So therefore, we wouldn't have to be discussing this 50, 100 riparian buffer. It would be across the board. And that's why those 2 particular studies are very important. We also ask for you to consider this. It's a 12 property. Have we ever thought about reimagining this space? Instead of being the village at 4 Seasons, think of doing 6 or 7 homes. Call it the retreat at 4 Seasons. Reduce the number of properties. Have a beautiful, people are looking for quiet, peaceful area. Privacy is the new way that people want to show their wealth. The green lawns of big days are gone. People want that zen, that quiet moment. You could create that without the destruction. Your plan is proposing to destroy 15.27 acres of a 21-acre lot. That's incomplete. I can't even comprehend that we want to do that. In addition, not even thinking of the ramifications of the 40 acres that were destroyed in Marple. And although there is separate jurisdiction and we have no connection, it does have an impact. So I'd like us all to think, reimagine, and think of new ways to solve this problem. Let you have what you need to have of a development, and let's protect our people in Newtown Square. Thank you.
So we need to move on. Your last one. Don't repeat, please.
Good evening. Thank you, each one of you on the board for serving our community. I'm David Hoy. I live at 3722 Gradyville Road. This project is going to be detrimental to my property completely because it borders the length of my property and the width of my property. And what hasn't been shown at all is back here has been declared wetlands a long time ago. I've been there 49 years. I've been in Newtown 59 years. Deepatime built a berm along 252, so water from 252 would not flow down on his project there. He funneled it onto all those wetlands that's pouring down. And the water coming down my property like a waterfall. Okay, that's not the issue. The issue is That is a suicide road. That definitely, and it takes away my privacy too, which, and I thank everybody for all your comments. I'm fit to be tied that they would even design something like that and put a road right next to my property, and they don't even have enough, distance from my property line either. And sometimes it takes a long time to get out of my driveway because of the traffic. And yes, it is back down past my driveway all the time at night, especially before COVID. It was extremely bad. And men and women on the board, somebody gets killed. Oh, there's terrific motorcycle people going up and down that road because they're going to the park. It's used all the time, especially on the weekends and all.
Sunday.
Huh?
How about on Sunday?
And Sunday too, when you should be in church. I am in church, I'm in Spruce Street, but anyhow, that road is suicide. And I can attest to that because exactly what they're trying to put into Gradyville Road, which is extremely busy. My grandson, 4 years ago, exact figure that you have up there was killed because somebody came through that stop sign and he was instantly killed. In fact, it was a US mail truck that came out of that stop sign and he was killed instantly on a sunny Saturday afternoon out on a pleasure ride. So that is disastrous. The whole thing is disastrous.
Thank you, Mr. Hoy.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope I impacted you. I've been here, like I said, I love this township. I raised all my kids here. And so my wife and I, we love being here. So, and I just thank each one for what you do. And I remember when the bridge was out, every day, a policeman would come down just to look at the project as it progressed. They were talking to them, they were happy that the bridge was out because they didn't have as much paperwork to fill out all the accident reports. And yes, right at the end of my property there, on a beautiful Saturday morning, John lost his life right there when he hit the tree across the street and he was dead on the impact. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold on. So we have some emails. Yeah.
Would you folks consider allowing that access road so that the
Too early to answer.
new residents could go the other way to Mini Lime Road?
Too early, we have to look at the whole plan, so
Okay.
it's not an answer we can give.
All right.
So we have people that could not make it here. Wanted to make public comment. They sent some emails. I'm not gonna read them all. I'm just gonna give a name and a very succinct compilation of what they've said. Jim Gula, 404 Gradyville, says, I would like to give our support to the extension of the development of homes built in Marple. And we wholeheartedly lend our support to this development. Janet Russell?
Sure it was written. Yeah, I'm sure it was written.
Janet Russell, the proposed disturbance of steep and very steep areas is a troubling precedent. Development offers no clear benefit, financial or otherwise, to the residents of Newtown Township. William and Patricia Galbraith. We have grave concern for the developers of the Village of Four Seasons, what they're proposing to do. It is a travesty to destroy what Mother Nature intended to leave alone. David Horton, concerned with the steep slopes. Approving these exceptions not only undermines the spirit of our zoning ordinances, it sets a precedent that opens the door to more leniency. Stephen and Elizabeth Stout, very steep slopes again. There's no clear gain for the community financially or otherwise, yet we are left with the lasting consequences of altered land use. Ryan Lockard, very steep slopes. Very similar comments. And then the last one, Ashy Bond. Ah, you made it. Okay, I can skip that one. Yes. So you'll be back. Do you have any more comments from the board or anything before we?
Not at this time.
Just something that you may want to consider. Somehow I got the impression that you are not going to extend Road A, that cul-de-sac. I think if you connect lot number 9 directly to Road B and save on the construction of the extension of Road A, may be beneficial to well, maybe to the lot size or to the open area. Something to think about.
No. Excuse me? Eventually. So, okay. Are you applicant have any more?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for coming. We'll see you in a month. What do you think, 1 or 2?
But it might be 2, just because of the time that.
Yeah.
So I'll get you those. The one you definitely need an extension for is on the conditional use, because we had given an extension for 60 days until, from the date we filed the new plan, the revised plan. So that you definitely need an extension. You actually have 90 days from today to act on the land development plan. So I'm not sure you need one, but we'll talk about it. If you think you do, you'll get it. We're not
This
gonna.
should be good to be in the habit.
Right.
So. Okay, we have more comments?
Sir.
We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
Wait a second.
Second.
Everybody wants to stay here all night.
All in favor, say aye.
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 You doing, John? How are you?